different start of a match for Leroy. Looks like he is taking this seriously, but I wouldn't say that he wasn't before. Leroy, really, he likes to have fun, but he also has become a beloved professional wrestler, and part of it is because he does do things like play his switch in the ring. He really connects with a lot of the fans, and that's an important part of pro wrestling as well. Robert Martyr, I don't think he connects with anyone on a personal level.
This is very true, you know, and never in my career, my 10 years in this industry, have I ever heard of anyone say that Veda Scott was not an accomplished wrestler when she walked into the ring. When she takes the big cat head off and she does all this other, she's still one of the best wrestlers you're going to find in that ring. And
I retired the cat head like 6 years ago, but it was for a reason, and it was just because, again, I thought maybe that would help me be taken a little bit more seriously, but in the end I learned that what you really have to do is be yourself, and I think that's exactly what Leroy does. Maybe himself is playing his switch, maybe today it's putting the video games aside and focusing, but it's about being yourself and being true to yourself.
Right, and you know, the big game Leroy has had matches where he's gone up against opponents where people have thought, hey, big game Leroy ain't set up for this. I remember, Al, he was in the ring against one of the most dangerous men just to look at in low-key.
Oh, and low-key, very, very dangerous man.
And big game Leroy survived that. You know, and now looking to survive this match against Robert Martyr, big game Leroy has said that this is, in his opinion, the final boss battle for him.
Well, let's not forget, Rob Martyr, completely different wrestling style than Big Game Leroy. Rob Martyr likes to manipulate joints, manipulate body parts. He likes to pick off limbs.
But Leroy kind of like going right into it. Leroy showing his own technical savvy in this match.
I think sometimes when, and Veda probably can attest to this, when you face an opponent as dangerous as Rob Martyr, you feel like it's a match that you can't afford to lose. Is that right, Veda?
Well, yeah, especially with someone like Robert Martyr, who, as we said, has been antagonizing Leroy on social media and has... Robert Martyr calling for a break here. Telling our official to make sure Leroy backs off.
He's been trying to get in the head of Leroy for months and months and months, and in Veda, that's the big thing. I mean, earlier tonight, the tag team title match between Fight or Die and Milk Chocolate, we talked about how Milk Chocolate kept Martin out on the outside, leaving isolated his partner.
And Leroy going for a short arm scissors here. Martyr, though, with the head scissors to reverse it.
You know, how they were trying to kind of psychologically get that advantage, and we talked about how it was going to be Barton's, you know, anger and anxiousness to get into the match that was going to affect him. 7 months, Veda, Martyr has gone back and forth with Leroy, making him feel insignificant, making him feel less than, telling him that he couldn't even keep his title long enough for Martyr to take it from him. How does that affect Leroy's mindset going into this match?
Well, right now, Leroy is being technically dominated by Robert Martyr. This is his game. This is the way he likes to wrestle. But Leroy unleashing a big dropkick to turn things around.
And the crowd firmly behind Leroy here.
Leroy has been underestimated many times before and has come out the other side. Looking to do that in this long-awaited match against Martyr.
And the action hot and heavy here.
Leroy says, bring it on, Martyr! Taking down big flapjack. And big game Leroy, so aggressive. And again, a lot of this offense I'm very familiar with. I've seen Leroy use it before, but normally he has that switch in his hand.
Right.
There's just a new level of viciousness. And Martyr, it looks like another break here, but pull our official in the way.
Martyr pulling in Ref Crystal, and Leroy kind of...
Martyr with a handful of hair.
Leroy slowing up. Leroy slowed up to get that to happen. Big clothesline by Martyr there.
Rob Martyr, did you see the look on his face after that clothesline? And like you said, change of attitude, very noticeable.
Oh yeah. And again, he's been using these months to get into the head of Leroy, and Leroy's gotta let his anger that he has towards Martyr not cloud his judgment in this matchup. That is what Martyr wants. Martyr wants to win the psychological game, because if you win that, you're going to win the wrestling match in the ring.
And not only that, but Look how Robert Martyr is pacing back and forth before he goes on the attack. Ooh, and a heck of a forearm.
Whoa, Leroy taking down, big snap suplex, but Martyr holding on and rolling through.
Thought he was going to go for a three amigos maybe, but instead reverses it into that beautiful backbreaker over the knee.
Well, Veda, let me ask you a question here, because this match was delayed 7 months. When you train and tape study and prepare for an opponent, just for the match to get called off, when you face them, whenever it is again that you cross paths with that opponent, what's the strategy or the mindset?
Well, in that time period, Robert Martyr has had some huge matchups. I called a number of them, and I'm sure that Leroy has watched every single one of them. Robert Martyr, to his credit, has really elevated his game in the past year, and I know that Leroy is aware of that. I think that is part of why his aggression has ratcheted up as well.
Not to mention, this is not the same Robert Martyr from 7 months ago.
That's right, and this is also not the same big game Leroy from 7 months ago.
Leroy just pancaked, and a big drop kick to the face. Robert Martyr, big celebration, and then rolling into the cover.
1, 2, and a kick out by Leroy. You have to think the only match bigger than this for Leroy would probably be a rematch for that social media championship, which he lost back in February at Love and Let Die. Here at Invictus, you know, when he lost that to Mucho Chris Mojo. You know, but this has to be the biggest match on Leroy's match card right now.
And the Ridgefield Park faithful trying to will Leroy back into this match. Blows to the midsection.
And Leroy's been trying to find himself since losing that championship. Who is big game Leroy without that social media title?
It was almost like an identity.
Oh, beautiful hangman's drop kick there as Leroy was stuck up on the second turnbuckle. Covered by Martyr. Look at the placement of his leg. Putting that lower leg across the neck and throat area of Leroy while making that pin.
Cuts off.
Robert Martyr looks a little frustrated here, and this is where, again, Robert Martyr extremely talented, but this is where I have seen things start to fall apart for him before. He is also very emotional, and he needs to stay focused on Leroy. Leroy on his knees, but says, bring it on.
And that's the never say die, no quit attitude of big game Leroy.
That's right, he is going to play the game on the hardest difficulty. No matter how many lives he loses, no matter how many retries he's got to get, he is going to continue to play the game on the highest difficulty level until he can beat it. But here's the thing, tonight you only get one chance. You only get one chance. You either win or you lose against Marty.
Go home after that.
There's no resets on this one.
This is called the front face lock.
And as we know, there's not many mulligans in wrestling.
Very true.
That's for the PGA Tour.
Martyr again grinding down on Leroy. But you can hear everyone here in Ridgefield Park, they are behind Leroy. They're telling him to keep fighting and get up, and Leroy is doing what he can to do just that. Series of shots trying to break this hold, break this connection.
Martyr just keeps going back to it.
Wow, and that last strike so powerful, it dropped Rob Martyr.
Whoa.
Oh, ran into that elbow. Stunned him, it looks like. Ran into that boot. How many strikes are you going to run into?
Leroy able to take Martyr down not once but twice. Enziguri to the back of the head. Robert Martyr is staggered, and Leroy with that twisting suplex.
Big game Leroy, like he just got a superstar in Mario Bros, is on absolute fire right now.
Leroy.
In control of Martyr.
Leroy really feeling it.
Might be going for a Kamehameha wave.
Oh, hold on.
Oh! Veda, you alluded to this. Leroy's got to be himself, and he went to that well, went to do what he always does, but he second-guessed it.
Huge power bomb. Robert Martyr with the cover. Yeah, I think Leroy again went to do what he always does, and thought maybe he needs to try something else, but I still believe that the key to victory is staying true to yourself.
He said he kind of smacked himself out of it. He said, I got to be more serious.
Now Leroy, submission locked on.
Taking advantage of that missed splash by Martyr.
He doesn't have it locked in all the way. Look how much wiggle room Martyr has.
Martyr cover. Oh.
Leroy with the super kick. Martyr is down.
Leroy looks mad.
Cover.
Oh.
How did Rob Martyr kick out of that?
I don't know. I won't be able to tell you, but all I know is that Leroy's going to have to find something. He's going to have to level up in a big way if he wants to beat Rob Martyr here tonight.
And you hear the crowd saying, finish him.
Kamehameha from Big Game Leroy.
Will that be all she wrote?
Looking to follow it up with a big brutality. The brutality on Martyr. The cover 1, 2. What the hell?
And Rob Martyr somehow still kicked out.
No one has ever kicked out of the brutality. Big Game Leroy has never, ever not defeated someone with that brutality.
Well, I mentioned before that in the past year, Robert Martyr has also upped his game. He has been through some incredible tests, some wins, some losses, but there's no doubt that he is at a different level than he was back in January.
Veda, what must Leroy be going through mentally right now? He has never had someone kick out of that brutality before.
I have to wonder if maybe this is the end of his offensive plans. Oh! And Martyr went really low. I think Crystal didn't see it.
No, she didn't.
Yeah.
Utilizing the positioning of the ref to get away with one there. Going for a big brain stew.
Right on the crown of his head. Oh, my goodness.
And that might be it for Big Game Leroy. Covered by Martyr, too. Oh!
And Leroy, maybe by instinct, got to the rope, foot on the rope.
Yeah, Robert Martyr realizes that Leroy didn't kick out, but he doesn't realize that that foot was on the rope.
Hit that huge brain stew, brain buster, but not enough. Leroy able to muster up something. Able to find an extra life somewhere.
And he's got to stay on Leroy. Arguing with the referee is not going to do him any good, but Leroy's dead weight.
Leroy's gone. I think you said it right, Al. It was maybe by instinct, just feeling that he was by the rope, getting that foot up and got it on the rope, breaking up that 3 count. But I don't think Big Game Leroy is in any condition to continue this match right now.
Robert Martyr could just easily pin him and be done with him.
This is what Invictus produces. Losers.
Martyr saying, this is what Invictus produces. Look at this. Calling Big Game Leroy a loser.
I mean, he is out on Dream Street.
Leroy still out of it.
Oh, slap to the face.
Bringing back.
And he paid for it.
Bringing back some memories that were painful for Leroy. Back when he was known as the young boy, Leroy Green. He's grown out of that. He fought through hell to stop being called that.
Leroy with the sunset flip, but Martyr rolling through. Martyr with the jackknife pin, but Leroy rolls through, hooks the legs.
That was a 3! That was a 3!
And Robert Martyr can't believe it.
Big Game Leroy.
Big Game Leroy able to use Robert Martyr's own pinning momentum against him and pulling out the win. And you have to imagine that, yes, this was a huge victory for Leroy, but on the psychological end of things, it has to be even a bigger victory.
Leroy took a hell of a beating in this match, and Robert Martyr's beside himself. He can't believe it. I think he expected to
Look
win
at
this
this here,
match.
look at this here. Rolled through there by Leroy, tried to get one. Martyr then rolling through, but as you said, man, using Martyr's own momentum to flip him over to that jackknife pin and